Iyo, Yat-e. This is Dr. Farina King and a feature on Dr. Isabel Cobb.
I am standing here by the pillars that were built from bricks remaining from the Cherokee National Female Seminary and the Cherokee National Male Seminary that were built after the Cherokee people were forced on the Trail of Tears into Indian Territory from their ancestral homelands in the southeastern part of what is now considered the United States. What's incredible about this story is the revitalization, resurgence, and perseverance of the Cherokee Nation and their people. And Isabel Cobb is a part of that story, an individual who dedicated her life and service for the well-being and health of the Cherokee Nation, even through difficult times when the United States federal government sought to dissolve and absorb the Cherokee Nation as a part of their citizenship. Isabel Cobb was always proud of being Cherokee, and she stayed in her Cherokee community and continued to notice her Cherokee family and provide services for them, even at no cost and at great sacrifice on her part.
Belle remembered her early childhood in southeastern Tennessee, where she was the first of 7 children to be born in 1858 to Joseph Benson and Eveline Clingan Cobb. Her family lived by her maternal family, Clingan Homestead, in the town of Cleveland. Her family survived the Civil War. After the war, 2 of her paternal uncles invited her family to follow them to Indian Territory, where they did in 1870, as they could live in the Cherokee Nation as citizens. Belle was Cherokee through her maternal lineage as a descendant of a Cherokee woman of the Long Hair Clan, Igude, also known as Elizabeth Cootie. Regardless of her mixed ancestry, like other Cherokee National female seminarians, Belle self-identified and was identified by others as a Cherokee woman throughout her life. In March 2021, I was able to talk to Dr. Isabel Cobb's great niece, Beverly Cobb, who has been an important family historian.
But what she did was extraordinary. And she gave up a life of her own to do this. And she was a very pretty woman, 6 foot tall. And I just want people to remember that she may have probably was the first female MD in Indian Territory.
Dr. Isabel Cobb had various roles that she fulfilled throughout her life. After finishing her medical studies in 1892, Dr. Isabel Cobb signed her name as Loyal Countrywoman in a letter to Principal Chief C.J. Harris, showing her interest in a position as the physician at her alma mater, the Cherokee National Female Seminary. Unfortunately, she did not receive the job as it went to a male physician instead. But Isabel Cobb remained a loyal countrywoman to the Cherokee Nation, returning home to serve her people through health and education throughout her life.
I think she was a role model for young women. I think she promoted education and preached it, to young boys and young girls, both, and all of her nieces and nephews. And I think that's why a lot of them went to college. But anyway, I just think she was ahead of her time. And, she must have met with a lot of sexism for being a woman and then treating men.
After her studies at the medical college in Pennsylvania, she could have remained on the East Coast. And she always was drawn to travel and explore the world, but she came home to her Cherokee Nation. And she, as a Cherokee Nation citizen physician, continued to hold that identity even though between 1907 and the 1930s, the Cherokee Nation was not being recognized by the United States government, and there were many broken promises to the treaties. We are now in the town of Wagner, which is one of the largest towns near to where Belle Cobb and her family lived. She didn't live in town itself, but she lived in the Cherokee Nation not far from Wagner. And she did not have an office here either where she practiced because of this place being shaped by specific borders and boundaries, specifically between tribal nations. Belle Cobb was a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and so she lived and practiced medicine in the Cherokee Nation. But Wagner was actually, and is, within the Muskogee Creek Nation. And it's important to understand that these boundaries matter. These are borderlands between many different peoples, and Belle Cobb was one individual, a part of this tapestry made of many different threads of white settlers, blacks, and diverse Native American peoples. And sometimes these peoples would intertwine in intimate ways, but also in violent ways too, including Belle Cobb's family. Her brother Billy was killed in cycles of violence and retaliation between peoples of the Cherokee Nation and Muskogee Creek Nation. So Belle Cobb was also an important educator.
I think she was driven to be, like I said, be a doctor because she saw the need for women to have care.
And she was instilled with the values of education from her mother, who was committed to being sure that her children would receive a strong education. And the Cherokee Nation valued education for both women and children by opening up these seminaries. And even though there was a fire of 1887 that Belle Cobb witnessed herself and felt helpless seeing the seminary burn to the ground on its original campus in Park Hill, she would return to Cherokee Nation, as the Cherokee Nation also would rebuild the seminary here on the main campus of Tahlequah, which is now Northeastern State University. And the building Seminary Hall, known as Seminary Hall behind us, was built in 1889 and opened then, and is still standing, going through various renovations and still being supported by the Cherokee Nation, enabling people from all over the world and country, but especially now in the area of the state of Oklahoma, to gather here and go far. Belle Cobb was one of those individuals who represented that legacy. Even though she was at a seminary before that time, she carried that light of education and, most importantly, of serving humankind, her family, and community at great sacrifice through herself, often providing medical services, asking for no payment in return. We are at the Special Collections and Archives of Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. This is where historians like me come to research and learn more about Belle Cobb by looking at specifically this collection donated by her family, specifically her niece, Beverly Cobb, and it includes various primary source materials such as personal documents, letters, governmental documents, and there's a few of the primary sources that we'll highlight for you, and some of these include this partial application for the Miller Roll during the allotment era, as Indian Territory was facing allotment and the forging of Oklahoma statehood. And these are the kind of documents that scholars and different history enthusiasts, we come to look at to better understand Belle Cobb's life, her perspective. Some are even pinned by her hand, such as copies of these letters, postcards from the 1920s that show Belle Cobb was well-traveled and continued to travel throughout her life, learning from those experiences and what family meant to her, and different themes such as that. So I'm excited to show you a glimpse of behind the scenes of how we come to understand Belle Cobb's life and her voice, to be able to hear that through the archival materials that are available still at NSU.
Belle expressed her pain and temptation to give up her medical practice due to how, quote, "it is hard to be poor," she would say. She made ends meet by her orchards, making her way as a farmer and rancher, but she continued medicine for 50 years until she fell and broke her hip in 1930. She remained engaged in her community and supported health and well-being for her remaining years until she passed away in 1947, and she is honored by the Wagner and Cherokee community to this day. The Cherokee Nation donated millions to Northeastern State University, the successor of the Cherokee National Female Seminary, towards the building of the Cobb Student Residence Hall in her honor. When Belle returned to Indian Territory in 1893, she faced the dire situation of treating her sister-in-law, Lucy Van Zell, who needed a serious medical operation due to a complicated pregnancy. Lucy died during the operation, which defeated Belle. She said, "I have so many regrets over this, for she expected so much of me. Everything had been left till I came home, and I was able to do so little." Belle knew that she was disadvantaged working outside of a hospital trying to save her sister-in-law's life. She somehow found courage to continue medicine, and she delivered over 100 babies with remarkably few fatalities between 1899 and 1927. Belle is not remembered for her failures, but for her successes. She persevered and pushed through the hardships and blocks on her path to support and serve the Cherokee Nation.
But I think Aunt Belle wanted to show women that there was another way that they could take their life rather than just settling for getting married and having babies. And she's always, I mean, she did everything, just like a man would do. And but yet she was a lady.
We are on the campus of Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and behind me is the residence hall that was dedicated to Dr. Belle Cobb in 2015, and it opened in 2016.
In 2019, Principal Chief Bill John Baker of the Cherokee Nation referred specifically to Belle when he said, "From Isabel Cobb, the first female physician in Indian Territory, to Mary Golda Ross, a NASA aerospace engineer who helped America win the space race, Cherokee women have been at the forefront of defining our success. Cherokee Nation is a matrilineal tribe, and reverence for women is deeply rooted in our culture. Cherokee women, in their everyday actions and decisions to push boundaries and continue to contribute as professionals and as family and kin, strengthen the Cherokee Nation, as Belle did."
This is the Pioneer Memorial Cemetery outside of Wagner proper. And this is about the border area between Cherokee Nation and the Muskogee Creek Nation in what was formerly Indian Territory and what became the state of Oklahoma. Behind me is the family plot of Cobb with Belle Cobb, where she rests in this place. And this was originally started as actually a family plot and then grew to become the Pioneer Memorial Cemetery. And so it's great to come here and see this landscape where Belle Cobb grew up and always saw as home, her Cherokee Nation, with unwavering allegiance to it and the support and all that she contributed to her community throughout her life. But at the heart of it was her love for family and her people.